Welcome back to Beyond the Margins, Inside the Minds Shaping Modern Finance. I'm your host, Sharice Arneson, and today we're diving into the mortgage world, a space that's seen incredible change over the past few years. Joining me is Dante Royster, author of The Ultimate Mortgage Guide and founder and CEO of Epic Mortgage. Dante has built a business around customer-centered lending, helping home buyers navigate one of the most important financial decisions of their lives. Dante, it's so great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get into the business side of things, I noticed you've built a really diverse career from financial services to founding Epic Mortgage. You've also been recognized locally for your work in the community through full court services and your mentorship in financial literacy. What inspired you to bring all of those experiences together into Epic Mortgage?
I would say that it starts with my parents. Everything I do is because of them. My dad was a coach, so he was always mentoring the youth, and my mom's a teacher. She's a retired teacher, and she, obviously always had great relationships within the community. And I feel like that's my purpose in life, is to teach and to educate. So when I kind of stumbled upon this business and just the mortgage aspect, it was fascinating how many people weren't really familiar and weren't really comfortable with a lot of the mortgage jargon and just the concepts. And so I felt, the opportunity that I had to learn all this information and to garner, this knowledge that could help me personally. I thought it was my place to, really educate and teach others. So that's really what got me passionate about this opportunity.
That's amazing. And I love hearing how entrepreneurs focus on people first, which is sounding what you do. You want to help people, you want to share your knowledge and help people to make good decisions. So let's start with the foundation. For those who may not know, what sets Epic Mortgage apart from other mortgage brokers in the country?
Sure. We're a regional mortgage broker. So, that's for one. We decided that we weren't just going to focus on Illinois. So I'm right outside of the Chicagoland area and about 20 minutes west of Chicago, downtown Chicago. So most mortgage brokers usually just kind of stay in that one, state that they're in or one location. We decided to expand and make ourselves a regional mortgage broker. We felt like our information, our knowledge, and our tools of what we can do can help other people outside of our state. So we made a focal point to, really expand. And obviously, a lot of this kind of happened during the pandemic, with the opportunities that were limited, just in the state-based situation. We looked to expand our businesses in other states. And that's really allowed us to, put some at least some groundwork into, expanding our business in other locations because it's the same conversations, it really doesn't change. We're not the realtor per se, right? So I'm not the one opening up the doors and looking at the rooms. I'm the one talking about the money and how you can use it wisely and how you can generate a lifestyle for yourself and your family.
Wonderful. So the mortgage industry has been through quite a bit recently, fluctuating rates and new tech tools, tighter regulations, I hear. From your perspective, what industry shifts are having the biggest impact on how you serve your clients?
Definitely technology. Right. Obviously, we have this platform that you and I are on right now. This wasn't there 20 years ago. So AI has really, come into play as well. So communication, even though it's great, it's also hard at the same time because of the fact that everyone uses different platforms. So you have to communicate that many more ways to people. Some people are on Facebook, some people are on Instagram, some people are on TikTok. So, having to be on various platforms makes it challenging. And how do you spread yourself but spread yourself wisely, but not so much that you're too thin. That has been a little bit of the gamesmanship that has changed over time, just in real estate and communicating in general.
That's so true. With everything moving so fast technology-wise, where do you see AI or automation making a difference for mortgage professionals going forward?
It's a concept that's kind of in my head that the way you asked that, I almost feel like all businesses are starting to become very similar. We all are either providing a product or a service, but we're all using these various platforms. And so, which, hopefully it should make the experience better for customers. But with that being said, the way we go about having this information provided to them has to be unique and different. Not all the youth, if we look at generations like, Gen Zs and millennials, they may not be as keen to want to go to church and listen to a seminar. They might be a little bit more wanted. Well, don't you have a video for it? Can I just watch it at my own time?
Mhm.
So they really do like the freedom and control that potential automation can provide them. That they can seek this information when they want it and just tap in or search for it. They don't necessarily have to go and seek it per se. It's right available right on their phone.
That's so true. And it's the convenience, right? People want to have that when they want it and not have to work within business hours necessarily. Let's talk about what's working well for Epic Mortgage right now, whether that's a system you've implemented or your team culture or a process. What's the biggest wins lately?
Sure. I mean, I would like to say it's a compilation of things. I mean, obviously, we're always trying to work on a better, stronger team atmosphere. We try to do training, which, is probably another thing that separates us. I like to explain, I had a meeting today and I like to go over with, my sales force, just things that I'm seeing in the market and let's talk about it. And, I don't want to talk to you, but I want to have a conversation, and so, we can sort things out. And I want people to be able to say it in their own words, not just what Dante says, but do you understand the concepts? And sometimes repeating and reiterating in your own words will help you feel stronger in understanding the concepts. So we're really building culture that hopefully will last long, and that's a positive thing. And I think the wins ultimately are just we're doing a lot of digital social media work, and we are getting some responses, and they're positive, and people are enjoying the experience that we're trying to provide. So we're going to continue to do that. Obviously, it's kind of the whole theory and the name Epic. We want to provide an epic experience for our customers, and we just want to make sure we're paying attention to what tools that are available to us to make sure that the communication's there.
Absolutely. Now, are there any new products in the mortgage world or anything you're seeing that you're excited about to implement into what you offer?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think what's interesting is, I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I've had this experience in this space. And I think a level of just more experience of life for me has also just made things that were already there just more clearly understood. So, some of the products kind of come and go in the marketplace depending when you need them, but really understanding when they can come into play into someone's life. Some bridge loan capabilities, for example. A bridge loan would be something that someone would take advantage of if they want to sell their house because they want to buy a new house, but they don't really necessarily have the money to buy the house because they have to sell the house first in order to. And we, got so used to doing these like simultaneous closings where you sell your home and buy a new home. Well, some people can't do that. Some people live like hoarders. Some people have a lot of just stuff they need to go through and review. And so what do you do when it's like, hey, that's the house I need, for my family dynamics, but I need to sell this house first. You kind of get stuck in that situation. And we offer bridge loans. And that's in a sense what the bridge does. It allows you to be able to purchase, use the equity that you currently have before selling, and then you obviously can pay off that loan once you do sell. So that has been a huge product that has really been there in the marketplace, but I just didn't know properly how to use it, and really through life experiences and understanding, just the pain that so many people have in moving boxes and going through things. People, it's sometimes it's hard for people to let go.
I remember when we sold our home, trying to get the timing together of when you are out of one house and into the other is sometimes challenging. So,
Exactly.
absolutely, that bridge loan is definitely a good thing for that situation. Let's talk about, on the flip side, what you're most focused on improving at this point.
Brand awareness in this world and, kind of day and age that we're in, there's just so much noise out there. And there's just so many more options for a consumer. And at times it's very overwhelming. It's just like, well, who do I choose from? And how do you stick out and how do you stand out? So brand awareness, it takes, and this is just kind of, doing some research, but it takes multiple times someone sees your face, someone hears your voice, someone kind of sees your, logo. It takes more than just one, two, or three times, because how do I trust you? How do I know you're the right person for me? And so, really, brand awareness has been a lot of our time right now is being spent on, putting the marketing up on the various platforms, making sure that we're as visible as we can be, so people can start to feel normal when they see the name and normal when they hear the voice or when they see, just who we are.
Have you found that certain strategies work better for marketing than others in the area of mortgage?
I would say probably no, to be honest with you. There is a lot of throwing a lot of stuff against the wall and see if it sticks. There is a lot of trial and error. I mean, obviously, if there was a map that says this is what it takes to be successful, everyone in America and in Canada would probably buy that
Yeah,
map. But
right.
there isn't, and there's so many. If you think of a maze, there might be that maze that's been drawn out where there's multiple exits, so there's multiple ways you can be successful. You just kind of have to draw out your own path and see what works best for you. And sometimes you have to bump your head against the wall a couple times and like, oh yeah, I guess I need to make a right, not a left. And so, we're sorting it out, we're figuring it out, but it's a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely, yeah. The trial and error thing, it's just a part of doing business. I
It is. It is.
hear that from everybody, yeah. Looking ahead, if we fast forward 6 or 12 months, what does epic success look like for you and your team?
We're continuing to grow, growing out our sales force. We're making these imprints into the multiple states that we're licensed in. We'd like to continue to have more and more loan officers available in those that we can service the public. And that would be a great success. Continue to help more and more home buyers become home buyers and also investors. We've really made kind of a pivot per se. Right around the pandemic to focus on investors as well. It's just some great opportunities out there from a fix and flip standpoint to buy and holds to really strategize. I recently had a birthday and it was the first time for whatever reason I recognized that I was closer to 60 than I was 20. You know, I,
Yeah,
I didn't want to I didn't want to face that, I guess. And I kind of woke up on that day and I was like, oh my gosh. And so the thought of retirement, the thought of having choices and freedom really, kind of motivate me. And so when I'm strategizing for myself, I'm just letting other people know what I'm seeing and what I think, and see what they think. And we're trying to map some of that things out, and a lot of it to me, from a personal savings standpoint, really drives from you, what you build and develop. So I think real estate should be a part of most people's portfolios. And that's what I just try to comment and talk about as much as I can.
absolutely. Is there any recommendations that you would have for people who are wanting to get real estate in their portfolios? Some tips or something that they should take into consideration before they take
Sure.
that leap?
Yeah, I mean, I would always say buy my book,
And I
I
was just
wrote
going to ask you if you had
yeah.
some tips from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some tips in the Ultimate Mortgage Guide. It's a book that I wrote in 2023. And the funny part about the book was it really stemmed from the concept that I was getting the same questions asked of me in 2002 when I first started, and I was still getting them in 2023. And what that kind of told me was that, this information is unfortunately not really put in the schools. It's not something that it's just, it's not a class that people learn. And so, but this is so much a part of people's lives, just dealing with real estate, whether it's you becoming a homeowner, whether it's your mom passes away and now you have to sell her house, whether you want to, buy multiple homes or you want to have a second home, whatever the case is, real estate is so intertwined in people's lives. And it's a shame that we don't know more about the ins and outs and how it works and what is a mortgage broker. And so I wrote this book to try to, demystify the mortgage maze and the mortgage jargon and try to give people, at least a sense of some information that they should be aware of, especially when they have to deal with this industry. Because, for most of us, we all will either, like you said, sell your house, buy a new house. I mean, that's just part of what you're going to do as being an adult.
Are there any advice that you offer for residential purchases of like, say, just me buying a house that I
Sure.
should take into consideration?
I mean, obviously in the States, we focus on credit scores. Credit scores are a big deal. Obviously, you want to pay attention to your credit score. That impacts, just your ability of lending, what products and programs are available to you. We always want to talk about, income. We want to see how you're getting paid. We're kind of in this gig economy where all this youth, these Gen Zs are having these independent contractor type of jobs. Itself have kind of changed, and so we have to understand, what does that mean for me as far as a down payment goes? What does that mean for me? Can I still get a loan? The traditional W-2s and tax returns. There is still a place for traditional, but we see more and more people having multiple jobs to earn a living and to maintain. So, that has impacted the market. And so I always would want to say you have to have a firm grasp of your own personal information as far as your personal income that is coming in and assets. So many times, I'll talk to a customer and say, well, how much money do you make? And they really don't have a clue. They really just don't know. And, we have to have a better idea of our budgets. It's important to have a budget. Obviously try to live, below our means is definitely one tip I would always say.
Absolutely. And solid advice because you're going to get in trouble in every area of life if you can't live within the budget that you need to have for sure. If you could give advice to other people doing the things that you do in the mortgage field, what would that advice be?
In the mortgage field, I mean, obviously you want to be a strategist. I think there's enough people that have, bought and refinanced. They've done these things, these words that were kind of new maybe 20 years ago, but they've done them at least once or twice. So I think it takes strategy, and that's the way that you can have more conversations. But if you just start off with, kind of generic terms, that might, disinterest a customer to, oh, I've already done that. But, having a strategy on why we're doing this again, why this might be something you want to look into. We've seen a lot of growth when it comes to appreciation of homes, and one of the things is you really can't do anything with all this appreciation if it's stuck in your walls. And so we talk about, the extraction plan. What can we do if we could take that money and use it best for you in situations? Sometimes people need a break. I mean, there might be a situation where it's like, hey, I need to go back to school. I need to get my, I want to become a nurse. I want to change professions. Well, how are you going to do that? I mean, obviously money, education costs money, and how am I going to pay my bills? But if you're proactive nowadays, that's the thing that mortgage can't provide. It can provide you a source of funding where you can be proactive about your life. So, really strategy, and that's what I try to work with my clients is very important. So I would encourage other loan officers, branch managers that are out there, really develop those relationships as more of a strategist than, just someone that's, providing a service.
Now, when you mentioned about pulling money out of your home, the concept I have with my mortgage is like a whole home equity. Is that what you're meaning there?
Yeah, so like a line of credit. So, you have the capability with a line of credit, you can take money out of your home, let's say, depending on how much the value of your home is, depending on how much you owe, that difference there is called equity. And so, extracting that equity when necessarily you don't need it is better than when you do need it. Mortgages have changed over the last 2 decades. When I first got in the business, we could help you even if you were, let's say in a jam. If you were in a pickle, maybe you lost your job. We're seeing a lot of, people are losing jobs per se, companies are closing down, or they're mergers and acquisitions, and then they're downsizing. And so, oh man, I need this money now, and you can't tap in because you're unemployed and now you're not eligible for a loan. But if you were able to tap into it beforehand, that's the key. So that proactive strategy of saying, well, how much equity do I have? And, as long as it can make sense financially, it's nothing wrong with having that money. And maybe you set it aside in a CD, or maybe you set aside just in your savings account. So you may not need it necessarily today, but it sure feels better when you need it and you have it than when you need it and you can't touch it. So we talk about those things just to make sure that you are always prepared, because life sometimes is unpredictable and things do occur in people's lives. And, if we're not prepared, that could be a huge issue.
Absolutely. And to be able to have those funds available, I found from my experience a lower interest rate that you'll pay when it's money that's secured by your home. We've used it for our business loans
Sure.
because it's a better rate. So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And we've seen
Uh,
tax deductions too. I'm not sure, but here in the States, it's tax deductible, when you have a mortgage, any mortgage interest that you pay. So that's another benefit as well.
Well, Dante, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, and I appreciate you coming on the show. For those who might be listening and wanting to reach out and connect with you, how best can they do that?
Definitely. I'm on pretty much all social media platforms. So if they can reach me at Dante, Epic Spotlight is our YouTube channel. So, I spend a lot of time on the YouTube channel. I conduct a streaming show Monday through Wednesday, and then I have my podcast, Epic Spotlight. So definitely check me out on YouTube, and we can take it from there.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Beyond the Margins Inside the Mind Shaping Modern Finance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with a colleague who's leading through change. And if you're interested in being on the show or learning how AI can benefit your business operations, feel free to reach out to me at the link below as well.